So now we see the other in a natural environment. About to carry how many bags there, my love?
1, 2, 3, 4, plus a water bottle and my coffee cup.
Ooh,
So,
let's watch how she does it.
Okay.
It's like a didgeridoo with a human.
Like this.
Oh, she's got one.
This goes over my
She's
shoulder.
got two.
Like that.
Oh, oh.
This is the new one. I usually have this one. I'll put this one over this shoulder.
Ooh, very, very attractive there, my love.
Okay.
Oh.
And then this one is over my wrist.
Over her wrist.
This goes over my fingers.
Fingers.
Like that.
Oh.
This goes
It's a
here.
Finger bang your
Keeps my hand
coffee.
free for my keys, and also I need my phone. So you're
Do
gonna.
you need your phone? Do you
I
really?
do. So can
Do
you?
you?
Can
Do
you put it in my
ever?
purse, please?
Yes, dear.
Hello. Okay. Other than a clip of me that Tyler filmed this morning, I haven't filmed anything else today because it is Monday and it's the same as it was last week. Although, I don't know if I went to the gym last week. I did go to the gym after work today, so that's good. I thought today I could go through all the books I read in 2025, and I got Chatty's help a little bit with coming up with little synopses of each one. And yeah, I'm gonna give you a little synopsis and then share a little bit of what I thought about it. I'm not gonna go too in depth, but maybe along the way I will also talk about how I was able to read so much. Oh my God, I just noticed, Tyler, there's a Stella Artois can under our couch.
Oh.
Would never have seen that if I hadn't decided to sit on the floor today, because I sit on the couch a lot in videos and I wanted a different background. So it's a little more festive. So starting off, going in chronological order from the books I finished at the beginning of the year to the end, a book that I finished on January 7th was The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, which is a historical fantasy set in 16th century Spain during the Spanish Golden Age. The story follows Lucia Cotado, a lowly kitchen scullion who hides her Jewish ancestry and a small but real talent for magic. When her scheming mistress discovers her gift, Lucia is thrust into the world of court intrigue and ambition as nobles try to exploit her abilities to gain favor with the king. Drawn into a secret magical competition and under threat from the Spanish Inquisition, Lucia must navigate danger, politics, and her own identity, all while forming a complicated bond with Guillen Sontengal. Sontengal, I don't know how to pronounce his name, an immortal familiar tied up in his own curse. I did not rate any of these books, but I do remember really enjoying The Familiar, and I think in general just really enjoying Leigh Bardugo's writing. That author shows up several times in my list, and I think she's a she, but yeah, read some of her books last year as well. So because I was really enjoying her writing, I wanted to venture outside of, what did she write? The Grisha series, I think, which I think she's most known for, but I really, really like her writing. I think she might be one of my favorite authors. The next book I read in 2025, I finished on January 11th, and that was Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder. The novel follows a woman named Mother, she intentionally goes unnamed beyond this role, who has put her artistic career on hold to become a stay-at-home parent. Isolated and overwhelmed, she begins to feel herself disappearing under the endless demands of motherhood. As her resentment and exhaustion deepen, Mother becomes convinced she is physically transforming into a dog, a belief that is both unsettling and strangely liberating. The narrative blurs the line between psychological breakdown and metamorphosis, using surreal body horror to express maternal rage and loss of identity. I really enjoyed Night Bitch. Ended up watching the movie shortly after, and the movie was not as good. The book was very enjoyable, interesting, and also pretty fast to read, if I'm remembering correctly. I did read a lot of, I think, just like feminist literature this year, which I don't know why I sound surprised by that. Next book I finished on the next day, apparently. Some of these, I think these first three, I started technically in 2024, like at the end of December 2024. So that's how I was able to finish them quickly in the new year. But yes, I finished this one on January 12th. I read This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Motar and Max Gladstone. Set amid a vast, non-linear war fought across countless timelines, the novel follows two elite agents known as Red and Blue, who serve opposing factions determined to shape the future. After a series of encounters on the battlefield, they begin leaving letters for one another, initially as taunts and intellectual challenges. Over time, their correspondence becomes more personal, curious, and emotionally charged. The novel is told entirely through their lyrical letters, emphasizing language, wit, and metaphor over plot-driven action. The story explores fate, choice, and the radical act of connection across ideological divides. Ultimately, it asks whether love itself can become a form of rebellion against systems built on control and destruction. Very, very good book. I recommend it. I would say I recommend it to everyone. It's on my list of books that I would buy for. I have a friend who we often exchange books for each other, and like this is one I would get for her. Or yeah, I would buy this book as a gift for people because I think it's one of the more unique books I've ever read. I think it's actually unlike anything I've ever read. Next, I read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. Okay, now we're getting into the contemporary romance a little bit. I think I needed a bit of a palate cleanser. I finished that one on January 24th. The novel follows Piper Bellinger, a wealthy, fashion-forward socialite whose party girl reputation leads her stepfather to send her away from Los Angeles to run a struggling bar in the small Pacific Northwest fishing town. Accustomed to luxury and attention, Piper initially clashes with the town's slower pace and no-nonsense values. She especially butts heads with Brendan Taggart, a gruff, widowed sea captain who believes Piper embodies everything shallow and irresponsible. As Piper settles into the community, she begins to prove she's more capable and determined than anyone expects, including herself. I really liked this romance novel. I thought the chemistry was very well written. I was super invested in the spice factor, and it's pretty spicy. Let's see, out of 5 little chili peppers, I would give it like a 3.5, I think. Yeah. I really enjoyed the sizzle between them. And then also just the character growth. I think Piper really grew as a person, and I was really invested in seeing that. Like, she was definitely more than what she seemed on the surface. When I first met her in the story, I was like, oh God, please do not be this way the whole book. The way the author writes her, like the reader encounters her the way other people do. And then you start to realize like, oh, I was actually judging her on the surface, just like everyone else does. I don't know, I really liked it. And I think I ended up reading another Tessa Bailey novel after this. I don't know if this was actually inspired by Schitt's Creek, but I saw that on the internet, but I haven't dug into that. But it is kind of Schitt's Creek-y. So moving on, more romance. I finished reading on February 1st, Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. The novel follows Sloane Sutherland and Rowan Cain, 2 serial killers who cross paths while hunting the same victim. Instead of becoming enemies, they recognize a shared moral code. They only kill those they believe truly deserve it. Their chance encounter evolves into an annual tradition where they reunite to hunt together, building a bond rooted in trust, respect, and mutual understanding. Beneath the violence and dark humor, a slow burn romance develops as both characters grapple with vulnerability and emotional intimacy they've never allowed themselves before. Yeah, I would say dark romance. Dark in terms of like death being very cavalierly approached. So if that bothers you, I would not read this. Like death and murder, and it's very gruesome. That part didn't bother me. I think some of the sexual graphic imagery, some of it, like the kinks were not my kinks. Like, I'm not here for some of what was in there. I'm not gonna say on the internet, but I mean, I was along for the ride for some of it, but it definitely wasn't my jam. Next is a book I read that was recommended by someone on my dissertation committee, which I finished on February 9th. And so not for fun, but it was interesting. It's Before We Were Trans by Kit Hayam, or Hayam. In this nonfiction work, historian Kit Hayam explores gender diversity across history, challenging the idea that trans identities are a modern phenomenon. Rather than retroactively labeling historical figures, the book examines how gender variance was understood in its own historical context. If you're interested in knowing more about the history of trans folks in this world and in different cultures, I highly recommend it. Next, I read Morbidly Yours by Ivy Fairbanks, which I finished on February 11th. This was a book that Tyler got for me for Christmas last year. So most of these books I don't have physically because I tend to get them from the library on Libby, or if I do own them, I end up giving them away to somebody once I'm done reading it, which Tyler knows. And when he writes a little inscription in the book, he'll say like, and hello to whoever Heather declutters this book to. So anyway, but this was a contemporary romance. The novel follows Callum Flennelly, a shy and socially anxious mortician living in a small Irish town whose quiet life revolves around routine and careful emotional distance. His world shifts when Lark Thompson, an expressive and warm American woman, grapples with her own grief, enters his orbit. It was very sweet, definitely slow burn, a little spicy, not that much, maybe like 1.5 or 2, I don't know. Next, I read Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus by Dusty Bowling, which I finished on March 8th. And this was recommended by one of my clients. Seemed to be a very important book to her, just like the shaping of herself. And so I wanted to read it. I wanted to get a little bit of like a little bit more insight into her inner world. This middle grade novel centers on Avon Green, a confident and witty girl born without arms who moves with her family to Arizona. Starting at a new school, Avon navigates friendships, bullies, and assumptions about her disability with resilience and humor. When she and her friends uncover a mysterious incident at a nearby amusement park, Avon becomes determined to solve it. Very sweet, and really did help me understand my client a little bit more. And as I'd been working with her for a while, so as I was reading it, I was like, I could totally see why she would like this. I don't know, just like a great book in general to increase kids' empathy for people who are different from the norm or from like the dominant ideal. I finished The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab on March 19th. So, of course, this is a very popular, I think, like book talk book. The novel follows Adeline, or Addie LaRue, a young woman in 18th century France who makes a desperate bargain with a dark god to live forever. While she gains immortality, Addie is cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets the moment she leaves their sight. Her lonely existence changes when she meets Henry Strauss, a man who remembers her, something that should be impossible. I really liked it. I mean, not that I'm super exposed to book talk hype, but the hype that I experienced around this book, I think it met it, honestly. I enjoyed it. It was one of the books that kind of stuck with me for a little while after I finished it, which is rare because I feel like I read a lot and not a lot of what I read stuck with me. You know what I should have been doing is kind of rounding up or letting you know I read 4 books in January, 3 books in February, 4 books in March. So moving on to the next book in March I read was Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, which I finished on March 23rd. This contemporary romance centers on Scarlett Vandermeer, a driven graduate student navigating academic pressure, identity, and emotional vulnerability. She becomes entangled with Lucas Blomqvist, whose confidence and emotional steadiness challenge her carefully guarded independence. I really like Ali Hazelwood. She was probably one of my favorite authors of last year. The Love Hypothesis was the first Allie Hazelwood book I read. What I really like about her main characters is that they're pretty much all women in STEM. And as I guess I'm a woman in STEM, I don't know. I still don't feel like it. Tyler calls me that a lot, but I just appreciate reading about women who are pursuing advanced degrees for some reason or have advanced degrees. I don't know why I would relate to that so much. But also, like, I was intrigued by the sort of dom sub theme that was suggested in this book, though pretty soon into reading it I was a little bit disappointed. Like, it didn't really explore that as much as I hoped it would. The flirting was way hotter than the actual spice for me. It really wasn't that that spicy. There is a Gracie Abrams song that I was listening to as I was reading this book, though, that talks about deep end. Like, is it deep? I don't know. I haven't listened to it in a few months, so I don't remember. But if you know, you know. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. Next book, the last book I finished in March was Once Upon a Broken Heart, which I finished on March 30th. This is by Stephanie Garber. This is one of those, like, YouTube shorts made me read it kind of thing. I kept seeing it recommended. The story follows Evangeline Fox, a romantic who believes deeply in happily ever afters, even when her own heart is broken. In desperation to stop the love of her life from marrying someone else, she makes a dangerous bargain with Jax, the Prince of Hearts. Jax agrees to help her, but magic always comes with a price, and Evangeline soon finds herself trapped in a world of curses, secrets, and shifting truths. It was so just fine. I don't know. As I was reading it, I felt a little bit too old to be reading it. Just maybe a little bit too young adult for me, and a little bit too much like too many books I've already read before. So it was fine. I don't know. I mean, better than anything I could write. I think there's more to the series, and I will not be continuing the series. I kind of, it was so cotton candy-ish that I didn't enjoy it. Like, it was like, it hurt. Like if you eat too much sugar. So I don't know if that metaphor makes sense. Okay, moving on to the books I read in April, which looks like I also read 4 books in April. I finished The Inheritance Games on April 6th. This was written by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. The novel follows Avery Grams, a teenager with no connection to wealth who unexpectedly inherits the vast fortune of eccentric billionaire Tobias Hawthorne. As a condition of the inheritance, Avery must live in a Hawthorne house alongside the family members who are expecting the money themselves. The estate is filled with riddles, secret passages, and elaborate puzzles designed by Tobias before his death. Avery becomes entangled with the Hawthorne grandsons, particularly the brilliant and enigmatic Jameson Hawthorne. As she works to solve the mystery of why she was chosen, danger and suspicion grow. I really enjoyed The Inheritance Games. This, for me, is an example of like a young adult, but I didn't feel like I was being talked down to, like with the other one, Once Upon a Broken Heart. I don't know. I was really invested in the mystery, and I didn't know what was happening, and I don't think I anticipated. Was there even a twist? I'm trying to remember. This felt like so long ago, but I was invested in it. I was hooked, and I will be continuing this series probably in 2026. It was just really fun, a really fast read. I think if you're in a reading slump, I would recommend this. This has been compared to Knives Out, and I agree. It gives Knives Out energy for sure. I just love intelligent protagonists. I appreciate it. Next in April, I finished on April 13th, It by Stephen King. This took a while. I had to borrow this from Libby like 3 or 4 times. It's big. I mean, we all know It. I don't know, right? Like we know, but the novel follows a group of childhood friends known as the Losers Club, including Bill Denbrough, Beverly Marsh, Ben Hanscom, Richie Tozier, Eddie Kasprak, Mike Hanlon, and Stan Uris. growing up in the town of Derry, Maine. As children, they encounter a terrifying shape-shifting entity that most often appears as Pennywise the Clown, feeding on fear. After defeating the creature once, the friends scatter and largely forget what happened. Decades later, they are drawn back to Derry as adults, where the evil resurfaces. The novel alternates between past and present, showing how childhood trauma echoes into adulthood. This is the first Stephen King book I've ever read. I don't think it'll be my last. Obviously an incredible storyteller. They're just really long books. And so if I don't know, I feel like it slows my momentum down, but also it's not like I'm trying to read a ton of books every year. So I don't know. I enjoyed it. I think maybe because I watched the movies first, I think I like the movies more, but I'm glad to have read the part of the story that was not shown, except for one part in the book where I'm like, why did that have to happen? I was telling Tyler about it. I'm like, this is so unnecessary. Why did this have to happen? But I'm not going to talk about it on YouTube. I still have nightmares. I wouldn't call them nightmares, but Pennywise the Clown still shows up in my dreams. He's been showing up in my dreams, or it has been showing up in my dreams since 2017 when I saw the trailers for the movies. I didn't even watch them until like 2020 or 2021 or something. I just, like, my mind is very compelled by this figure. Anyway, so at that point, I needed to go back to contemporary romance a little bit. I read a novel love story by Ashley Poston, which I finished on 4/20. So I had already read an Ashley Poston novel or two. Actually, I think the first one I ever read was The Dead Romantics. And then I read The 7-Year Slip, which was recommended by one of my good friends. And I loved The 7-Year Slip. So a novel love story was newish at the time. I think she's a newer one out now, but this novel follows Eileen Merriweather, a hopeless romantic who finds herself mysteriously transported into the world of her favorite romance novel series. She forms an unexpected bond with Anders, a gruff bookstore owner who does not fit the romance trope she expects. As Eileen navigates the rules of a world built on love stories, she's forced to confront her own grief and disillusionment with romance. It was fine. It was not my favorite Ashley Poston. Next, I read a series of short stories, which I finished on April 26th. It was the last book I finished in April, called She's Always Hungry, collection of stories by Eliza Clark. I actually do have a copy of this, but I don't feel like grabbing it. I do still have my copy. I bought it. It was not recommended to me. I just found it when Tyler and I were in Idlewild with Aaron and Andrea for Aaron's 50th birthday party. We were just exploring the town, and there's a little bookstore, and it just looked like a collection of stories I would enjoy. Feminist literature, and I did enjoy it. This short story collection explores women's desire, rage, and consumption through unsettling and often grotesque narratives. Across the stories, Clark presents protagonists who are driven by hunger for love, power, validation, or control. I would recommend this to other feminists and non-feminists alike. I liked being unsettled by the stories. I didn't find them to be too disturbing. I don't know. I enjoyed it. Okay, next, getting back into some contemporary romance and into the books I read in May, which looks like I only read 3. I read Fix Her Up, finished it on May 8th, also by Tessa Bailey. The novel centers on Georgie Castle, a woman determined to shed her reputation as the immature little sister and be taken seriously as an adult. She enters a fake dating arrangement with Travis Ford, a former baseball player struggling to redefine himself after his career ends. This is the author of It Happened One Summer, which was a book that my friend Heather recommended to me that I talked about. You know, it was one of the first books I read in the year, and I really liked it. And so I bought this book, and it just wasn't as good. I don't know. It was fine. I felt like I wasn't super invested in the spicy elements or the sexual intimacy. I like a good fake dating trope, but this one's not a good one. It wasn't that good. But I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion. I ended up sending this to Heather as part of like a care package. So I wonder what she thought of it. But yeah. Next, this is so deviating from the norm. I finished this next one on May 30th. It was the Spectrum Girls Survival Guide, How to Grow Up Awesome and Autistic by Sienna Castellan. I wanted to buy this for one of my clients, but I didn't just want to like buy it and give it to her without reading it first. So it's a nonfiction guide written by Sienna Castellan, an autistic advocate for autistic girls and gender diverse teens navigating a world not built for them. Ultimately, it serves as both a survival guide and a celebration of neurodivergent ways of being. I really liked it. I would absolutely recommend this to any female identifying or like gender diverse teen who is on the autism spectrum. Absolutely. I think what I loved the most about it was that when the author wrote it, she was still a teenager. And so it really reads like a big sister is talking to you. Next, this is the last book I finished in May on May 31st, A Great Big Beautiful Life by, oh, I don't have the author here. What's her name? Oh, Emily Henry. Oh my God. Durr. So this latest book, it centers on a woman navigating ambition, creativity, and emotional uncertainty as she tries to reconcile who she thought she would be with who she is becoming. Chatty did not do a good job with that synopsis. From what I remember, she has been called to almost like audition in a sense to write a memoir for this like very famous sort of almost old Hollywood socialite. But she's being considered alongside this like other guy who wrote a very popular biography about some other dude, I think, who died or whatever. So there, you know, there's like a competition aspect of it, and then a little bit of like a Grumpy Sunshine kind of vibe, if I'm remembering correctly. I think what surprised me about this novel is that the sexual relationship starts way sooner than I was expecting. So it's not slow burn in that sense, but they sort of like are really drawn to each other physically, which is fun. I love how they're both really tall, and so like the scenes where they're at a diner or something and like their knees are touching, they have to sort of like manage where their knees are kind of in between each other, if that makes sense, under the table, which is just cute, like a cute little detail. I don't know what it's like to be tall, so I couldn't really relate to it, but it wasn't my favorite Emily Henry book I've read, but it was fine. Next, this was a quick one, so one of my first June reads. Let's see, I read 3 things in June. This first one is a play that I finished on June 10th called She Kills Monsters by Ki Nguyen. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's a play that follows Agnes Evans, a young woman grieving the death of her teenage sister, Tilly. After Tilly's death, Agnes discovers her sister's Dungeons and Dragons campaign and decides to play through it with Tilly's friends. So the reason I read this random play is because one of my really good friends is directing it next summer, and I hopefully will be in it. I don't know what part I'll be playing, but I just wanted to read it and sort of get a sense of what play I might be doing next summer. Okay, next I finished Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo on June 13th. So this is the second book in the, is it called the Ninth House series? The first book is Ninth House, which really enjoyed. The novel continues the story of Alex Stern, a woman able to see ghosts and navigate the occult underbelly of Yale University's secret societies. Following the events of Ninth House, Alex becomes determined to rescue Darlington, her mentor, who is trapped in hell. To do so, she is willing to break rules, defy institutions, and make morally questionable choices. I think what got me onto Ninth House was maybe some Pinterest recommendations about, oh, what's that trope? Dark academia. Yeah, dark academia books. I really liked Ninth House, and then I just really liked this sequel to it. I think there's going to be more in the series. I don't think the third book is out yet, but you know what this gives? Like, it gives Buffy the Vampire Slayer to me. Just like kind of the Scooby Gang vibe of it. There's a Scooby Gang vibe. There's just like a character of different archetypes and things. And I just love the main character so much. I love that she's not, there's like a vulnerability to her, but then also like this tough as nails exterior, but not too, I don't know, like it doesn't seem too performative. Like there's a reason that she is that way. I just really like her. I think she's so resourceful, and she just reminds me of like later seasons of Buffy. I don't know. It's not about vampire slayers or anything. It's just the friend group. I wouldn't even call it a friend group. It's like they've come together. They found themselves working together against this evil, this sort of like big bad kind of thing. So highly recommend. Again, Leigh Bardugo. I just need to keep reading her stuff. Okay, so now we gotta take it to something that wasn't as great. I finished this next book on June 22nd. This was Powerless by Lauren Roberts. The novel follows Peyton Gray, a girl living in a kingdom where magical ability determines status and survival. Though she has no powers, Peyton survives by pretending to be psychic in a society that would kill her for her weakness. Her carefully constructed lie collapses when she is forced into the Purging Trials, a brutal competition designed to showcase the realm's most powerful elites. There she becomes entangled with Kai Azar, the king's enforcer, whose role in maintaining the oppressive system puts him directly in her path. This was written by a young woman. I shouldn't say like young woman like that. Her gender really has nothing to do with it, but just the immaturity shows in the writing. Like it reads like a fanfic of a generic kind of high fantasy world. I don't know. It's juvenile. It was juvenile. I'm too old for it. This was recommended also on, might have been like the same person who recommended Once Upon a Broken Heart. So I don't know if you're like younger than me, or if you're my age or older, but you just like haven't read as much, maybe. I'm trying not to sound like judgmental. I don't know. I don't want to sound mean, but it just reads like so many other books I've read before that I was just like, why is this happening? And then it's just very repetitive, and the amount of times she freaking like holds her knife to his throat, or I'm just like, that's not tension. You're like two kids on a playground. Stop. I'm like, get over it. There's more to the series. I will not be reading anymore. Moving on to July, I read 4 books. Finished 4 books in July. The first one I finished on July 5th, which was The Ritual by Chantal Tessier? I don't know. This was recommended by my friend Andrea because we were at a romance bookstore, and I was like, I kind of want to get a little bit more into dark romance. I'm still like dipping my toes into the genre or whatever, but I did not want to purchase something. I read the content warnings of this, and I'm like, I'm not spending $25 on this, but she owned it, and so she let me borrow it. This dark romance centers on Blakely, a young woman pulled into an elite secret society that operates through power, control, and tradition. She becomes bound to Riot Alexander, a dominant and dangerous figure whose authority within the society is absolute. It was so too much. It was too much. It just was extra sauce, like super size me, extra too much. Too much. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous, and I could not take it seriously. Like some parts were actually like a little hot, where I'm like, okay, and then like it went further, and I'm like, what are you doing? Get out of here. You all need to go home. You need therapy, and you all need to like just take some time. I can't with you. I can't with you. Oh my god. There's more to the series. I will not be continuing. It's too much. It's too much. Okay. This next one was recommended to me by my friend Heather, and then recommended to me again by Andrea, who happened to own the whole series. This is Things We Never Got Over, which I think it's the Knock 'Em Out series. So I finished this on July 16th, the first book. The story follows Naomi Witt. It's by Lucy Score. Naomi Witt, a runaway bride who arrives in a small Virginia town to help her estranged twin, only to be abandoned with unexpected responsibilities. Stranded and starting over, Naomi clashes with Knox Morgan, a gruff barber who wants nothing to do with drama or emotional entanglements. Really, really liked this book and the whole series in general. I just loved the world. I love the side characters. It's like a grittier Stars Hollow to me, like silly, eccentric characters, but they're grounded in something a little more real and tangible. I just really enjoyed it. And you've got the romance element, but then you have this sort of like dangerous like B plot that's also happening. So it kind of raises the stakes, and that B plot extends throughout the whole series. So yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a great, like, Naomi is a great introduction into this world. And then you meet the other characters who are the main characters of the following books throughout this first book. So it's a great like storytelling device. Okay, next I finished on July 22nd, Oathbound by Tracy Dion. I think this is the third in the Legendborn series. I think it's the third. This fantasy novel continues the story of Bree Matthews, a young woman navigating grief, identity, and power within a hidden magical world tied to Arthurian legend. Bound by multiple magical oaths, Bree struggles with divided loyalties to institutions that claim to protect her while demanding her obedience. This felt like a filler. I'm sorry. It felt like a filler. I don't know. It was just okay. I really enjoyed the first one, and I liked the second one, and this third one was just, and there's more. I'm like, what are you doing? It was so long. I'm like, why is this so long? And it's not the end. I don't know. I was getting a little bit over it. It just was starting to get really overly convoluted. Like I don't know. We'll see how it ends, I guess. I don't think the next book is out. I hope it's the last one, but I don't think it's out yet. So next I read and finished on July 31st, Under a Dancing Star by Laura Wood. This was on a list of books that had been recommended to me for a long time. I think this one came from Darling Desi, I think is a YouTuber who's still making YouTube content. I don't watch her anymore, so that's how long this has been on my list to read. This novel follows B, or Bia, I think it's B, a young woman who impulsively travels to Italy. She doesn't impulsively, Chatty, come on. She gets sent to Italy by her parents. Chatty's hallucinating. Oh my God, I'm a therapist. I couldn't remember that name. Chatty's hallucinating again. So she gets sent to Italy by her parents, because that's where her uncle lives. Anyway, hoping for escape, sort of. This reads like someone who's never read the book, Chatty. I think it's just a retelling of, oh my God, what is that play? Much Ado About Nothing. Oh my God, that took me a long time. I think it's just a retelling of Much Ado About Nothing. So I don't know about all this that Chatty was hallucinating over here. It was fine. It was cute-ish. I don't know. It was fine. Next, I listened to an audiobook. Ooh, are we getting into August? Yes. Okay. Looks like I only read 2 books in August, and they were both audiobooks. The first one I finished on August 16th. It was Untamed by Glennon Doyle. In this memoir, Glennon Doyle reflects on the moment she realized her life no longer felt true to who she was. She traces her journey through marriage, motherhood, faith, addiction recovery, and falling in love again, examining how women are socialized to abandon themselves to meet expectations. There's a lot of what she said that I do remember, basically kind of living outside of the scripts of what it is to be a good woman or like a well-behaved woman, and I really appreciated those aspects of it. I finished listening to Everyday Sisu on August 26th. This is by Katja Panzar. It's a nonfiction book exploring the Finnish concept of sisu, a quiet form of resilience rooted in perseverance, steadiness, and inner strength. So I traveled to Finland last spring, Yeah, in 2024, spring of 2024. So I really appreciated kind of re-experiencing aspects of Finnish culture through reading this book. I don't think the author is actually Finnish herself. But anyway, and there's a lot that I appreciated about this book in terms of like when it talked about connecting with people and a little bit about slowing down, connecting with nature, and sort of rebelling a little bit against like hustle culture, if I'm remembering this correctly. But then it got into like positive psychology kind of stuff, which is so like it's giving neoliberalism, and how like you are 100% in control of your own happiness, completely ignoring like systemic oppression and the effects of marginalization and like intergenerational systemic BS on people's experience of themselves. She doesn't go too far into that, but like when she was referencing really prominent writers and proponents of positive psychology, I was like, ooh, bad taste in my mouth. Bad taste in my mouth. So I don't know if I'd recommend this to anyone, but it was just an easy audiobook to listen to. You can tell I might have been in a little bit of a reading slump at this point. Next book I read, I finished it on September 1st. This was recommended by one of my coworkers. Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. The novel centers on Tova Sullivan, a widow who works the night shift at a seaside aquarium while quietly carrying unresolved grief. One of the aquarium's residents, Marcellus, a remarkably intelligent octopus, narrates part of the story with wit and insight. As Tova forms an unexpected bond with Marcellus, long-buried truths about her past begin to surface. The story also follows Cameron Cassmore, a young man searching for direction and belonging. This was very sweet. Bit slow, so if you're in a reading slump, I don't know if I would recommend it, but it's just like a sweet, slow novel. I don't know. Hadn't read anything like it before. I did not think I would shed tears about an octopus, and here we are. Not right now, but there we were. So this is another one I think I would recommend to certain people. It's a book I might buy for certain people. Another recommendation from a coworker, which I listened to on audiobook and finished on September 7th, was Women Without Kids by Ruby Warrington. I am a non-parent by choice over here, so connects to, she figured I would like it. In this nonfiction exploration, Ruby Warrington examines the lives and experiences of women who choose not to have children. Blending cultural analysis with personal reflection, she challenges the assumption that motherhood is essential to fulfillment or femininity. Rather than positioning the choice as anti-motherhood, the book frames it as pro-agency. I think if you are grappling yourselves with the decision of whether you want to have children or not, I think regardless of your gender, I would recommend this. Or maybe if you know somebody who has decided not to have kids and you find yourself judging them without critically analyzing your judgment, then this could be something to sort of expand your worldview maybe a little bit and help develop empathy for that person who's making a different choice than you. And then it doesn't mean that they're anti your choice. Next, on September 11, I finished The Ritual Effect. Oh my goodness, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 books in September, but to be fair, 2 of them were audiobooks. So The Ritual Effect by Michael Norton. I think this one and Everyday Suzu were just on Libby as like immediately available audiobooks, so no one recommended them to me. In this nonfiction book, psychologist Michael Norton explores why rituals, even when we know they're symbolic, can be emotionally powerful. It was fine. It was interesting. It got me wondering and thinking about what rituals I live out in my life. But it wasn't groundbreaking for me. Next, I finished this on September 14th. This was also recommended by a colleague, the same person who recommended Women Without Kids. This was I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This dystopian novel follows an unnamed young woman who has spent her entire life imprisoned underground with 39 other women guarded by silent men. She alone has never experienced the outside world, intimacy, or even basic knowledge of society. When the guards suddenly disappear, the women escape into a vast, nearly empty landscape. As they struggle to survive, the narrator grapples with loneliness, freedom, and the absence of human connection. The novel is stark and philosophical, focusing less on plot and more on existential reflection. So good. It was such a quick read, so good. It was another one that stuck with me long after reading it, and I definitely recommend this. It's a much older book than I thought it was. Like, I don't think the author is alive anymore. Not that that says anything. Could have died really young. But yeah, this was from, I don't know, a long time ago. I don't have it written down. I don't want to guess a date. I'm going to do this one, and then we're going to take a chocolate break and get my advent calendar. And then we'll finish up with the last 10 books. The last book I finished in September was on September 23rd, and it was Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So now we're getting into some books that were recommended by the Book Leo, who's a booktuber here on YouTube, who I really like her recommendations. I feel like we have similar tastes in books, and she also was sort of challenging me, not personally, she doesn't know me, but her recommendations were like just a hair outside what I would normally reach for. So Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is the third or fourth book by this author I have read, so I know I like her writing style and the way she tells stories. This is set in the 1980s during NASA's Space Shuttle program, following Joan Goodwin, a brilliant but reserved physicist selected to train as one of the first female astronauts. At Johnson Space Center in Houston, Joan enters an intense competitive environment alongside a small group of elite candidates, including the confident and charismatic Vanessa Ford. It was really sweet and interesting and different from what I'd read before. And I'd say I would recommend it. And it was quick. It was a quick one. So, okay, it's time for some chocolate. It's day 15. Okay. Oh, I think this is milk chocolate ganache with hazelnut cream. This must be like real hazelnut butter, because it's kind of gritty. I don't know if I love that texture, and the flavor is okay. Now moving on to books I read in October, which was 5. I finished this next one on October 5th. Also recommended by the Book Leo. I guess she was really into like space books for the moment. Orbital by Samantha Harvey. Set aboard an international space station, the novel follows 6 astronauts as they orbit Earth over the course of a single day. As they float above the planet, their thoughts drift between the vastness of space and the intimacy of their own memories. The astronauts reflect on love, loss, humanity, and the fragile beauty of Earth below them. I think that captures the vibe. Very different from what I'd normally read. I'm glad I read it. And I would maybe only recommend this to like a select few people. It was, yeah, not very plot-y, or if you like want like a fast-paced book. It's just kind of existential, philosophical kind of read. It's also recommended by the Book Leo, and I finished it on October 8th, was Bluets or Bluet by Maggie Nelson. This lyrical work is written as a series of numbered fragments in which Maggie Nelson meditates on the color blue. I actually put this on my Christmas list because I want to own it, and I want to reread it, and I want to like highlight it, and I want to annotate it, and I want to like infuse it into my vernacular. So I really liked it. And I actually kind of want to recommend it. If my mentor hasn't already read it, I want to recommend it to him. I feel like he would really like it too. Okay, another book recommended by the Book Leo that I finished on October 11th is Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. Set in a quiet, enchanted forest, the story follows Toadling, a gentle and isolated fairy who has spent her life tending to a magical thorn hedge meant to imprison a dangerous curse. Tasked with guarding the hedge, Toadling believes she is protecting the world from harm, even as her loneliness grows. When a human knight named Halim arrives, intent on fulfilling a heroic quest, Toadling's understanding of good and evil begins to shift. So cool. Such a quick read. So interesting. Different from what I keep saying that. A lot of what I read this year was different than things I've read before, except for the things that were way too similar to things I've read before. But I would definitely recommend this. It's just a nice little, it's almost like a little palate cleanser. I don't know, very fairy tale, like traditional fairy tale, but with a twist. Now, on October 18th, I finished The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. This is another book that Tyler had gotten me for Christmas last year. You see it everywhere. It's just a fall aesthetic book, and it's all, what is the phrase I'm looking for? Like all something, no substance. All style, no substance. That's the phrase I've been thinking of. Yeah, all style, no substance. Set in the cozy small town of Dream Harbor, the novel follows Jeannie Ellis, a woman seeking a fresh start after burnout and disappointment. She takes over a charming seasonal cafe known for its fall atmosphere and tight-knit community. As Jeannie settles into town life, she clashes and slowly connects with Logan, a reserved local who prefers routine over romance. It's a cozy, low-stakes love story centered on comfort, belonging, and second chances. Low stakes, very low stakes, so low you just kick them away. Don't read this book. It's fine. It's fine. But after reading Things We Never Got Over, I'm just like, that kind of ruined small town books for me. Like it set a new bar for sure. So it was fine. Speaking of which, next I read Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. Finished that on October 27th. So I was in Belgium when I finished this. I'm not going to get into the whole synopsis as it's written by Chatty, but it basically follows Nash Morgan, who's Knox Morgan's brother from the first book, and then Lena Solavita. So yeah, there's like trauma and stuff, and it just continues the dangerous B plot from the first book. So I liked it. I think I liked the first one better than this one, but this one was good. I enjoyed it. It's a great book to read on a plane, I think. Next, I finished, we're on to something I finished on November 1st, which was the day I was flying back home. So I must have finished this on the plane. It was very short. A Psalm for the Wild-Built by Becky Chambers. Set in a future where humanity lives in balance with nature, the novella follows sibling Dex, a tea monk who provides comfort to travelers while quietly questioning their own purpose. During a solitary journey into the wilderness, Dex encounters Mosscap, a robot sent by other robots to ask humans a simple question: what do you need? This is another one I kind of want to reread and sort of take it a little slower. There's another one, a second book, I think it's a duology maybe, and I will be reading that too. But just another short little novella, and got me thinking existentially. It's just, I don't know, like books that are challenging hustle culture and productivity narratives, I think are my jam. Okay. Also in November, so read 3 books in November. The next one is the last of the Knock 'Em Out series, Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. Not going to go into all of it, but it follows Lucian, I think it's Lucian Rollins and Sloane Walton. So I enjoyed it. I also, when did I finish this one? Oh, November 13th. So I think I started this on my trip in Belgium and then finished it when I got back. So it's cute. I liked it. If I'm going to rate them, it would be Things We Never Got Over, Things We Left Behind, and then Things We Hide from the Light would be the last one. Okay. I read The Safe Keep by Jelle van der Wooden. I think the author's from the Netherlands. This was also recommended by the Book Leo. Finished it on November 20th. Set in the Netherlands in the years following World War II, the novel follows Isabel, a solitary woman living in her late mother's country house, a place heavy with silence and unspoken history. Isabel's tightly controlled life is disrupted when Eva, her brother's new partner, comes to stay in the house. Eva's presence unsettles Isabel, stirring discomfort, attraction, and suspicion. So good. I actually did buy this for someone for Christmas, so that says something. Highly recommend. Just beautifully written prose and storytelling. Just the atmosphere is like, oof, you can feel it on your skin. It's so good. Okay, also recommended by the book Leo. This might have all been like in the same video that she posted. This is Blood Over Bright Haven by N.L. Wong, which I just finished. Of the two books I read in December so far. Just finished this on Tyler's birthday, actually. Set in the city of Tehran, the novel follows Siona Freinen, a brilliant mage determined to rise within a rigid magical and academic hierarchy. Brighthaven, the institution at the center of power, presents itself as enlightened and progressive, while quietly relying on exploitation and violence. Alongside Tomil, an outsider forced into complicity, she is confronted with the moral weight of her success. The story blends political fantasy with personal reckoning. I really liked it. And what I hoped would happen didn't happen, and I'm okay with it. The way this book ends is like, I think, so brave of an author to do, and I wish more authors did it. Next, I just finished this today on December 15th. I listened to it on audiobook. Tomorrow, Sex Will Be Good Again by Catherine Angel. Also recommended by the book Leo. I think she's like the only booktuber that my algorithm feeds me right now. It's a feminist nonfiction work examining why so many women feel dissatisfied, disconnected, or pressured within heterosexual sexual relationships. She questions whether good sex has been narrowly defined in ways that still center men's desires and comfort. So I would recommend this. It was short. It was like a 5-hour audiobook, and I listened to it on 1.25 speed as I normally do. So yeah, it reinforces a lot of what I was already thinking, but then like got me thinking about consent in a different way, which I think is what it was trying to do. Like, it's not as clear, it's not as black and white as I think we have been talking about, which whenever I think there's a big, like, I don't know, a revolution against something, we often like swing to another extreme. And so this book is kind of bringing us back into maybe a little bit of that ambiguity, which we're so uncomfortable with. I talk to my clients about this all the time. It's like we would much rather like pick a side because it feels so much more comfortable and clear in our minds, but it's actually like unethical. Like when we pick one particular side, that can have like real negative shaping effects on the world. I think an ideal world is if we're all a little bit more comfortable with nuance and ambiguity, because that's what life is. Like, life is way more complicated than how we talk about it. So the author does this with like talking about consent, I think, and just like female sexuality and how we talk about it in this world. Okay, last book, and this is my current read. I am halfway through. Also recommended by the book Leo. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. Set in a gothic fantasy world ruled by prophecy and fear, the novel follows Sybil Delling, but she's called Six throughout the book so far. A young woman forced into servitude as a seer whose visions are extracted at great personal cost. Her fate becomes entwined with Roderick Mendacious, a disgraced knight. I don't know if he's just kind of like rough around the edges, bound by duty and haunted by his past. I don't know, maybe there's more to come that I don't know about his past. Together they are drawn into a dangerous journey shaped by political manipulation, religious control, and prophecy. So I, in total, read how many books? I read 42, but I anticipate finishing The Night and the Moth before the end of the year. I've got, what, 15 more days? I'm definitely finishing it before the end of the year. So that will probably bring me to 43 books. And just really quick on how I'm able to read that much. Of course, you saw that I mix in some audiobooks here so that I can get in some like reading or like exposure to a book on my commutes, or sometimes I'll listen to an audiobook when I'm lifting if I want to break from music or a podcast. Never when I'm running though. Like running is for music. Music is for running. Music when running. So that helps me get a little bit more reading done or like exposure to things. I tend to, you might have noticed, listen to nonfiction rather than fiction, although there have been some really great books that I was exposed to. I don't like to say read because I didn't read them, but like I got to experience their stories through audiobooks. So I don't dislike fiction audiobooks. I find that my attention doesn't fully stay in the story if I'm listening to it on audiobook. I don't know. I have to really be mindful about what I'm doing while listening to it, because if I start to do certain things, I'm really only half listening and then I like miss what's going on in the story. So it's just easier with like a nonfiction. I read as part of my morning routine pretty much every single morning. So I start my morning with my New York Times games, and then I try to read for like 30 minutes, and on the weekends maybe for like an hour or two if I really can't put it down. What I would love to do next year is maybe like replace my scrolling on YouTube Shorts habit with like evening reading. Not that I'm trying to read more than 43 books next year, but I think I just want to like replace a habit. But I don't know if it'll work because it's not like immediate dopamine. I don't know. I need to experiment with it. But yeah, I mean, when I told people at work how much I'd read in the year, because I hit my reading goal early on in the year, they were like, how do you do all of that? How are you in school? And how are you working full time? And you go to the gym and you like all the little things I do. And I'm just like, it's part of my morning routine. It's like a habit. Every single morning, this is what I do, and it feels good and I enjoy it, and it's not super heavy intellectually. Even if they're dealing with like kind of heavy themes or intellectual or philosophical existential themes, it doesn't weigh heavy on my mind, and it doesn't take up as much mental bandwidth as like my dissertation and like the schoolwork that I've had to do. So I guess it's all relative. I don't know, but yeah, so this is gonna be a really long video to edit. Whew. But that'll be for tomorrow, Heather, to deal with. Okay, it is 9 o'clock. I need to take my melatonin and I need to have dinner. So I'm gonna end this here. Thank you for watching Vlogmas Day 15, and I will see you tomorrow for Vlogmas Day 16. Thank you. Bye.